Okay. Talk to you later about that.
Okay,
It's, we called them when we've seen them.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
We as in my office,
Oh,
not here.
okay.
Yeah.
Seems like a pretty good deal to get the brush cleaned up though. Stop. Stop cleaning up the
Some
property.
years I'd pay $190 just to have that all this.
All right, welcome everybody. Glad you're here. Before we start the meeting, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll go ahead and open up the Board of Equalization meeting and call it to order. The Opens Meeting Act is posted here on the wall to my right. And at this time, we'll have roll call.
Deacons,
Yes.
Warner,
Here.
Ganem,
Here.
Lathrop,
Here.
Jensen,
Here.
Sukram,
Here.
Von Baron.
Here.
Vaughn,
Present.
8 members present, Mayor.
Item 1 on the agenda is resolution 2024-224 levying a special tax and assessment in the amount of $190.63 against Empire City, Second Lot 9, Block 3 to the city of Fremont to pay the costs of weed and debris removal and assessment.
This is just a weed assessment lien against the property that the city needed to clean up. We haven't answered any questions.
Any questions for staff?
Tyler, the only question I really have about it is who the actual owner is on there. When I go out and look on
Yeah,
GIS, it shows a different owner and
we do have, we did notice 2 property owners on this. My understanding is it went up for tax sale maybe, and then another purchaser had that, and so we did notice RVR Bank and Akron on this.
okay, all right.
Any other questions for staff? Is there any comments from the public on this item? Okay, any additional comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion. Councilman Sukram,
I'll make that motion.
Councilman Jensen,
I'll second.
Warner,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dinkins.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
take a motion to adjourn the Board of Equalization. Councilman Jensen,
I'll make that motion.
Councilwoman Ganem,
Second.
Ganem,
Yes.
Warner,
Yes.
Dinkins,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Lathrop.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
we are adjourned. Go ahead and open up the city council regular meeting. The time is 7:02. Again, the Opens Meeting Act is to my right on the wall. And we'll have roll call for the city council regular meeting.
Lathrop,
Here.
Ganem,
Here.
Warner,
Here.
Dinkins,
Here.
Vaughn,
Here.
Von Baron.
Yes.
Sukram,
Here.
Jensen,
Here.
8 council members are present, Mayor.
I do not have any comments tonight, so we'll move on to item 1 on the agenda as a motion to adopt the current agenda for the October 8th, 2024 regular meeting. Councilman Von Baron,
So moved.
Councilman Dinkins. Oh, sorry. Okay,
Dinkins,
yep, thank you. I think the Horner had his light on, but I.
That's
couldn't tell
okay.
Give him a stroke light.
Jensen,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dinkins,
Yeah.
Warner,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Lathrop.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Moving to appointments is a move to confirm appointments of Austin Guard Arnold and Skylar Puffer as firefighter, EMT, for my recommendation, is my pleasure tonight to bring forward Austin and Skylar as new firefighter EMTs with the Fremont Fire Department. They completed all the requirements, went through the civil service process, and now are up for appointment. So we appreciate them also being here, and I look forward to bringing them on. So I'd take any questions or comments from the council. If there are none, I would take a motion to approve these two individuals. Councilwoman Ganem,
So moved.
Councilwoman Lathrop,
Second.
Sucrum,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Dinkins,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Von Baron.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
congratulations to both Austin and Skylar. They're here. Would they please stand up here? Move on to the consent agenda. All items in the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be adopted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda by council or staff? Councilman Von Baron.
Questions on 8, 10, and 11.
Okay. There, any other items from council? Any items from staff? Any items from the public to be removed? Staff with a lot, okay. Okay, seeing no other items, I would take a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 3 through 7, 9, 12, 12 and 13. Councilman Vaughn,
So moved.
Councilman Jensen,
And second.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Sucrum,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Dinkins,
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
moving on to item 8 is resolution 2024-226, acknowledging the name change and amendment for a 2-year extension of the current agreement with ARC Solutions LLC for powdered activated carbon injection. Now have a report from Jeff Shanahan.
Mayor, City Council, Jeff Shanahan, Utility General Manager. This is a agreement with, the provider of our powder activated carbon. This is used for mercury control in the scrubber system. We're required by our permit to operate this. They have changed names, so we're getting that cleared up in this revision. And we reached out to them and asked them what it would, if we could, do another 2-year agreement with them. Our boiler's tuned for this product. It does a good job on mercury capture. And, we're just requesting that we continue with this product and acknowledge the name change.
Questions for staff, Councilman Von Baron?
Yeah, my only question is just curious, what total amounts are we looking at? We've got the,
It varies based on, loading and the coal consumption. It's 2 or 3 semis a year. That we get. It's nothing like our line where we go through 15, 18 semis of that. So this is in the, well, it's $1.09 a pound, and there's like 8,000 or 8,000 pounds in the semis. So it's,
$25,000-$30,000.
yeah, per
Okay.
load, and then a couple of those loads a year. I can get you the exact
I just
value.
was interested in ballpark.
Yeah, no,
Thank
it's not a huge expense on the system, but it's expensive per pound compared to line. We don't use a lot of pounds.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? Do you have any comments from the public on this item? Any additional comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion. Councilman Sucrum,
I'll make that motion on 2024-226.
Councilman Horner,
I'll second.
Jensen,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Dinkins,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes,
Sucrum.
Yes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Okay, moving on to item 10 is resolution 2024-229, approving the final acceptance of Jack Sutton sidewalk project. Troy Shaden with our report.
For Shaven, city engineer, Jack Sutton sidewalk, north side of Jack Sutton Drive is completed now. This item proposes, asking city council to approve final pay request and change order. Final pay request is for $6,005.40, and the change order is for $6,250.93, which brings the total contract up to $96,168.
Questions for staff? Councilman Von Baron.
Yeah, the only reason I brought it up is I thought it would, there's been a lot of discussion on the public-private split on this one. And I thought it might be good to have those amounts aired for the record.
So proportionately on a linear foot basis, the project is a little over 2,000 feet. About 900 of that is city responsibility. So the proportionate is, it's roughly 45-55. That would include like mobilization, seating, a lot of the shared parts. It would not, the 45-55 is not included in like the sidewalk ramps, the striping, crosswalks, stuff like that. There, I know, for example, there are 2 of the ramps would be the city's responsibility, 5 of the ramps would be the private, to be assessed later. But for the most part, it's a 45-55 split, which would be basically 43,300 would be the city's responsibility and 52,900 would be assessed to adjacent property owners.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilman Vaughn.
Thank you very much for helping getting it finalized. I know a lot of folks had a lot of hands in it, but we finally got it done. Motion to approve.
Councilman Gannon.
Second,
Von Baron,
Yes,
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dinkins,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Ganem,
yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Jensen,
yes,
Sukram.
Yes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Now, item 11 is resolution 2024-230 to enter into an agreement with Civil Solutions LLC for the design, engineering, and construction services of the Luther Road South project.
So first, I apologize. I did not have the contract. You'll receive it first.
All right. Motion to receive, Councilman Jensen.
motion to receive,
Councilwoman Ganem.
Second,
Vaughn,
Yes.
Von Baron,
yes,
Sukram,
Yes.
Jensen,
yes,
Lathrop,
yes.
Yeah.
Ganem,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Dinkins.
Yes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So we did a request for proposals for improvements to Luther Road South, south of Morningside Road. Basically 900 feet south of where the existing pavement stops, south to what is the proposed entrance into the next phase of the Morningside Point subdivision, which is on the east side of Luther Road. We received 7 proposals. Of those 7 proposals, 3 of them did include funds for a wetland delineation. 4 of them did not. They said that they had examined the site and did not feel that wetland delineation was necessary. It was specifically stated that if a wetland delineation was needed, that would be done as an extra at a later time. I asked 2 of the proposals to give me a price for wetland delineation because I did not want to come back at a later date and have to do a change order. They both gave me a number for wetland delineation. The proposed load company's proposal for the wetland delineation was $5,500. Of the other 4 that submitted proposals, they were between $5,000 and $8,000. So I think $5,500 is a good number. Regardless of the $5,500, their original proposal without the wetland delineation was $67,720. With the wetland delineation, it was the $73,220 that you see on the staff report. Generally, these requests for proposals are proprietary. We don't release specific information on any of the proposals because there's technical, we can take into account technical knowledge, engineering experience, how they want to move forward with the project, and more importantly, there are sometimes hourly reports, and then subcontractors that they have listed on the projects, and one of the concerns is we don't want people stealing other people's subcontractors, so the requests for proposals are generally considered proprietary, but I will tell you that of the 7 we received, the proposed low firm was 73,220. The next closest was 114,000. The next closest after that was 120. And then it went basically 150, 200, 250, 300, 350. So the proposed engineer that we're recommending for approval was the low, I don't want to say bidder, but had the low proposal by about $40,000. We had a conversation. This engineer also happens to have the Broad Street improvements that are being done next year. There was some concern about both jobs going on at the same time, but in fact, the engineering will not occur at the same time. The engineering for Broad Street is being done now. The engineering for this would occur more in the December, January, February phase. I had a half-hour conversation. He said he had no issues with doing both jobs. We've worked with this engineer before. The firm has done Johnson Road South. They worked on First Street. They worked on Bell Street. They've done multiple projects with the utility for water and sewer jobs. Never had an issue with them, always performed well. Maybe a little slower than other firms, but has never missed a date that we've had. So we're recommending that Civil Solutions be awarded the contract for the Luther Road South project.
Councilman Warner?
Thank you, Mayor. You answered most of my questions already. Thank you for that, Troy. No issues at all with this engineering company. I think when you and I talked about it earlier, you said this is kind of a one-person show on this company. But they've done plenty of work for the city, so they're a known quantity. And why do you suppose though that there's such a difference in the low guy versus even the next one up? That seemed like quite a spread.
So I think being a smaller firm probably has something to do with it. He is subcontracting out the surveying, the geotech work. The larger companies have those people on staff, so they have probably more overhead. I think the bigger issue is he probably doesn't have anything to do next summer and had availability and put in a low bid for the work, whereas the other companies were probably had a lot of business that they needed. And if if the council is willing to pay them $200,000 to do the work, they'll go hire 3 more people for a year and they'll do the work for $200,000. But it's probably an availability issue, most likely.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Von Baron?
Yeah, my question was primarily based on looking at that stretch, and I didn't dig back into prior planning. Looking at that stretch, there just isn't much there. So I was trying to understand what the long-term purpose was of the study, what we were planning to do. So this has to do with the
So this is
proposed subdivision.
This is a city council maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Approved the city improving Luther Road from Morningside South to basically what is the limits of this project. So this was an approved project by the council. It's been in the capital improvement plan. It was scheduled to be done when the development to the east or to the west occurred and needed it done. And so the development to the east, Morningside Point, is under construction right now. So that's why it's being done now. It's been in the capital plan, and that was approved by the council. I don't know the date. I'm sorry. It was at least 2 years ago.
That's fine, no problem. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff on this item? Anybody from the public here to speak on this item?
Brad Yerger, 2318 East Fifth Street. I'm glad there's an opportunity to discuss this issue. I wanted to start with something that I want to thank Troy for sharing this information, but I don't find it in the resolution. It sounds like this was the lowest bidder. Typically, your resolutions will reflect your selection criteria as a matter of record. That is, if it's the lowest bidder, it says it's the lowest bidder. If it's not the lowest bidder, you typically explain why you pick somebody other than the lowest bidder. I think the resolution itself should be amended to indicate that, in fact, if that was your criteria for selection, it was the lowest bid or the lowest proposal, the resolution should say so. Beyond that, I'd like to address the project in general. It looks like this starts out and goes to the end of what would be the Morningside apartment complex that was originally part of the original development plan. And I think that's the 900 feet cutoff. But inherent in here is a discussion about this going all the way, or at least a study going all the way to Highway 8. And I'm curious as to the priority of that aspect of this at this time. There's been no discussion up to this point and no development plans for anything south of Mr. Gifford's property at Morningside Point. And the fact that you're doing work all the way down to Highway 8 at this juncture is curious in light of the fact that we have plenty of other construction projects that should get the city's attention, like the refinishing of Broad Street, which people were just here recently in front of you and asking for the truck traffic to be removed and for resurfacing to get done. There were issues raised on the South Claremont Railroad project that have not been done, they've been budgeted. So I'm not sure what you're preparing for. It would be nice as a part of the discussion tonight, you found out what's between the 900 feet south and Highway 8 that necessitates the build of this. As a resident of Ward 4 and working on these projects in the past, I'm concerned that hooking up to Highway 8 is going to enter the possibility of bringing truck traffic in on that street. And residents in that area and on Morningside, we're told when the bypass came through, we wouldn't be bringing truck traffic onto Luther. So the purpose of hooking up to Highway 8 anytime soon, given the lack of residential development, I'm not sure what that is. I would ask that you try to find that out. The other thing that I wanted to ask is, as this gets constructed, the 900 feet you're discussing and any further continuance down to Highway 8, who will be paying for that? Is that going to be a taxpayer funded event or a subdivision participating event? Who will be paying for this project? Not necessarily engineering, but the construction work that goes along with extending the street another 900 feet. And then 900 from the south of that 900-foot extension down to Highway 8. If you choose to build that into your next budget routine, who's going to be paying for that? Will it be the citizens of Fremont? If so, I think the citizens of Fremont deserve to have some explanation as to where that road is going and why it's being extended further than the 900 feet. Thank you.
Anybody else here to speak on this?
You walk too softly.
Figure shoot.
Denise Sky, 2550 Deerfield Avenue. Bringing another engineer in, I think it was JEO that did the first plans of Luther Road South. But yes, we tried to fight it, but it didn't pan out that way. But we were falsely told that the elevation was going to be equal with what Deerfield Avenue is, and it's 1.5 feet above where all those houses are built now. So the concern was for all the Deerfield residents on the east side that whatever, of course, we haven't had any rain, but rains that would come would drain into their backyards, which they've never had any problems with anything. You know, they got septic tank or sump pumps, but nothing's ever had water. So the concern was, and we were told that it was gonna be equal to Morningside and Deerfield Avenue, and it's 1.5 feet above, so whatever this engineered business comes in, hopefully whatever their engineering is knowledgeable of the fact that the residents that are along Deerfield there, that they don't care to have the water in their backyard, so just our concern. Thank you.
Anybody else here to speak on this from the public? All right, additional comments from council. Councilman Von Baron.
Could we, just a quick question, could we address that question on elevation?
So that kind of answers one of the questions that was asked earlier about why are we going all the way to Old Highway 8 is we're not constructing to Old Highway 8, we're doing what's considered an ultimate profile where you design the road like it's going to be built to Old Highway 8 so that you can take into account drainage patterns, account for the water going into the yards all the way down rather than just stopping the road and then letting the water go wherever it needs. And then you find out when you do the next phase, it's too low. I can't get the road in and storm sewer. So basically what they're doing is an ultimate plan all the way to Old Highway 8, but we're only constructing to, the 900 feet south. That additional engineering to do that ultimate profile and the surveying work is not a huge number. The huge number would be the construction number. Who's responsible for that construction? Ultimately, the council will decide who's responsible for that construction, but typically it's the adjacent property owners can do the improvements to an exterior road like that. So typically, I would say it would be the adjacent property owners would be responsible for the funding.
So the road level regarding the question.
Well, this is
Do we know what the grade elevation is?
the grade elevation is determined by the engineer based on floodplain maps and stuff like that, so. I don't know who said that the road would be even with Deerfield. It was designed with the floodplain and with future growth and everything involved, and typically the exterior roads are built higher. So, I mean, that foot higher is probably what it's gonna be most of the way down.
So would there be an allowance for that water?
It would be storm sewer all the way down, yes.
Okay, so that would be pushed off.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be pushed off, it would go into the storm sewer system and move down. And right now, I know there are drainage issues on the south side of Deerfield. On Old Highway 8 at the exit that goes out onto Old Highway 8, but I'm not aware of any problems down by like the church that's down there. The ultimate profile, ultimately, before we would be able to construct anything, the ultimate profile is to continue the road straight south, which is actually gets into the property of that church. So there would have to be either negotiations with the church to purchase part of that property, or we would have to, curve the road around, and typically it's easier to acquire the property than it is to curve the road around and add extra distance. Thank you.
Councilman Vaughn.
Troy, you may or may not know this, and it could have already been in future plans. Do you foresee that going all the way to Old 275 at some point? Down the road, 20 years, 30 years, whatever, as growth would allow?
I won't be here, but yes.
That would make logical sense. Okay, thank you. That was all.
Any other questions or comments? Take a motion. Councilman Jensen.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2024-230.
Councilman Sucro.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes,
Sukram,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes,
Lathrop,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Dinkins.
Yes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Thank you.
Moving on to unfinished business, there's this item 14, council members Jensen and Vaughn item ordinance 5695 pertaining to the salaries and pay plan for elected officials for second reading. And turn over to Councilman Jensen.
I do think this is an important issue that deserves some serious council consideration. After some reflection and some conversations, it's become clear that's unlikely to happen prior to the 2024 election. My hope is that we see this come before the next council, which we'll seat in December. Therefore, any changes made would not take effect until the following council seats in 2026. With that, I'm going to make the motion to table this indefinitely.
Councilman Vaughn,
I'll second that.
Piano,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Jenkins,
No.
Horner,
No.
motion carried 6-2, Mayor.
okay, we'll move on to new business. Item 15 is resolution 2024-228, authorizing the purchase agreement for a 2025 Elgin Broom Bear Sweeper from McQueen Equipment.
Rich Havens, city engineer, this is for the purchase of a new street sweeper, budgeted in this year's, budget year. The city is going to trade in 2 of our sweepers and buy 1 larger sweeper. The 2 sweepers that we have right now are, they're called drag sweepers. They're basically 3-wheeled with the front swivel wheel, and they've got the brushes in the front, and the brushes in the back, and they don't move very fast. This new sweeper we're buying is actually gonna be mounted on a truck chassis. It's gonna have the larger brushes in the middle and brushes in the front. You're gonna be able to retract the brushes up and down, so the vehicle will be able to move like a truck. It has a little bit more capacity, and this is what they call a high load back truck, where we can actually, the street sweepers that we have right now actually have to be driven to a site, and it's back to our street department site. And then they have to be unloaded out the bottom. You basically dump everything out onto the ground, drive away, and somebody else has to come by and sweep it up. This truck actually unloads up top with a chute, and we're able to put the street sweepings really anywhere we want. So the plan is, when we do our routes for street sweeping, we're gonna put out, temporary collection bins before we get there, and then do the street sweeping, and rather than have to drive back to the building, he'll just continue to dump into the collection dumpster, and then at the end of the day, we'll have a truck come by and pick up the dumpster, so he'll really only have to dump at one site. It is a larger truck. $386,644.50 for purchasing it off of the Minnesota State bid, which is very similar to purchasing off of Sourcewell. The trade-ins are about $66,500, so the total amount for this would be $323,141.50.
Questions for staff on this? Anybody here from the public to speak on this item? Okay, any additional comments from council? Councilman Horner?
I know you kind of allude to this in the supporting documents and everything, but it looks like, are we gonna pick up any savings as far as well, what kind of savings would we pick up from this thing, other than, I know it's gonna be a lot more efficient? Are we gonna pick up any savings anywhere?
I don't know that number. I don't have that number.
Okay, all right.
Councilman Jensen?
I didn't really have a question, just wanted to offer to the council and the public. This is something we talked about. It was brought up in our last meeting during public comment, that perhaps some of these higher dollar items, that even though they are actually budgeted items, it might be best to move them to the agenda, just so the public gets an idea of the kind of money and things it does cost to run the city. This was moved from the consent to the new business specifically for that purpose. If there's no further questions, I'll make the motion to approve.
Councilman Von Baron?
I'll second it. Just want to make an additional comment. I appreciate your comments, Councilman Jensen. Because items, I understand big items like this are budgeted items, but if they're not listed in the budget, this is really the only opportunity the public gets to see them. So I appreciate not putting these in the consent agenda and bringing these forward for discussion. I certainly second that.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes,
Sukram,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes,
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dinkins,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Ganem.
Yes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Thank you.
Item 16 is resolution 2024-235 to issue a purchase order for a collector well aquifer testing program and a micro particulate analysis testing to Lane Construction or Christensen Company. Man, tongue
did that
twister.
very well.
Micro particulate.
Yeah, we don't want any grasshopper legs in our water.
Thank
So, Mayor, City Council, Jeff Shanahan, Utility General Manager. This is the, we've been talking about this, horizontal well, collector well system for quite some time. In 2019, the Department of Utilities went out and looked at the feasibility of it. Found there were some rules that made it more difficult to put in with our well field location. We worked with the state, worked with Lane, talked to the state, went to public comment with it, got the rules cleared up and understood in our mind and understood in Lane's and understood in the state's mind. So what we then did was we asked for Lane to provide us a testing protocol and a proposal that will be a testing protocol along with putting a well in and doing all the analysis of the water. And then that'll help us with understanding what we're gonna have in the water. Basically, what we're looking for is the influence of groundwater on the horizontal well and how that is impacting the drinking water that we have. So we'll want to do that testing during high river levels and low river levels to be able to determine whether the level in the river impacts any of those tests. So Lane came up with a proposal for us. This will also help us determine the volume of water that we think we can pump. We're hoping to get anywhere between 10 and 13 million gallons a day. We won't know that until we do some of this testing. The well is estimated to cost us between maybe 7 and 12 million, depending on what we get out of it. But this will help us be able to determine if that's going to be feasible in that location. So we're asking for approval and take any questions.
Questions on this item from the council? Councilman Vaughn?
I know things like the amount of nitrates that are found in areas like ours with a lot of farming going on. I think I read a little bit about that kind of testing. Is that included in this?
That we do that testing anyway, but that isn't, we're really looking to see what groundwater has on it. Nitrates from the fields would be picked up on this testing. But we're looking for other components also, and I mean, there's a number of them that they're looking for, but primarily if we're getting any particulate type stuff into the water.
That high ground?
Yeah,
water
from
levels.
groundwater impacting it, and then that'll determine whether the well is gonna be able to be like that, or whether we'll have to put in filtration. The other option would be is if we are impacted by groundwater, maybe a horizontal well isn't the solution, maybe multiple vertical wells would be a better solution. We wanna look at this because we feel the horizontal well is the way to go. It would be a primary well for the host city for many, many years to come. But we just want to make sure before we spend that kind of money, what we're looking at.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions from the council? Anybody here from the public to speak on this? Just additional comments from council. If there are none, I would take a motion. Councilman Jensen,
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2024-235.
Councilman Sukram,
I'll second.
Jensen,
Yes,
Lathrop,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Dinkins,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Von Baron,
yes,
Sukram.
Yes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
item 17 is resolution 2024-236, ratifying the purchase agreement for property at 432 East Military Avenue in Fremont, Nebraska for the city of Fremont.
Mayor, City Council, Jeff Shanahan, Utility General Manager. Couple of months ago, the property owner at 432 East Military approached the city and asked us if we'd be interested in buying the property. The property is located just east of the existing municipal building. And with our commitment to keeping City Hall in the existing City Hall, we felt this would be a good property to own, allow us to have some expansion on that building and do some different things as we grow the utilities in the city.
Questions for staff from the council? Any comments from the public on this?
Greg Berger, 2318 East Fifth Street. I appreciate that there was some explanation given for what this property might be used for. But I thought I'd take the opportunity to speak to this tonight in light of the fact that this is one of several properties now that the city has acquired or is acquiring. There was one just a couple meetings ago. There was an opportunity that was out by the airport that apparently didn't go through. The city reinvested in property out of Tech Park that it had sold to the county that it acquired back. And the city owns a lot of other properties around the city of Fremont. My concern is this. This one may be the exception to the rule because maybe there's good cause for purchasing this if the city hall needs to be expanded, although I hadn't heard that at this date. But if that's a necessity, then perhaps that makes a whole lot of sense. Certainly the one next to the police station development project probably makes some sense also, except we don't yet own that property. Some of the others that we've bought in the past may or may not make sense at this time. And my concern is the city of Fremont has not shown itself to be a particularly great land developer. And ownership of property is of concern to me as a taxpayer of Fremont. Acquiring property and not having the use for it is a waste of taxpayer funding. So if we have good use for some of these properties, it would be nice for you to disclose in some sort of list fashion, where are the properties and what do you own? And what do you intend to do with those properties? And if you don't have just cause, then perhaps you should consider selling them in conjunction with buying properties that have some sort of useful purpose.
Any other comments from the public? Okay. Additional comments from council, Councilman Jensen?
Jody, can you speak to, I mean, I know I've heard that, yes, we own several properties and the city is looking to diverge itself from some of the ones that maybe we don't have any use for anymore. Is that not correct?
Jody Sanders, City Administrator. Yes, we are assembling a list of all properties owned by the city and utilities and, you know, designating what the purpose is, or if we think that they are perhaps ripe for being put on the market, because we in fact do want to activate as many of these properties as we can. There will be coming up a conversation with council, again, talking about pricing of property and what you're comfortable with as we look at marketing some of those properties as well.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments from the council? Not, I would take a motion. Councilman Horner?
I will make a motion that we approve resolution 2024-236, ratifying the purchase of the property located at 432 East Military Avenue.
Councilman Sucrum?
I will second that.
Sukram,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes,
Lathrop,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Von Baron.
Yes.
The motion carries 8-0 there.
Item 18 is resolution 2024-237, approving a contract amendment for engineering services related to the traffic signal improvements. This will be phase 3 projects. Well, Troy Shaker, yes.
For Shaven City Engineer. So back in end of 2022, the city entered into a contract with JEO, basically to do traffic study and signal improvements along 23rd Street, on 23rd Street corridor from Luther Road to Summers. Phase 1 and 2 were traffic study and then signal improvements for basically everything east of Broad Street, with the exception of the improvements to Lincoln. This next phase will be everything west of Broad Street, including Broad Street, traffic study or warrant study for Broad, Summers, and Nye. And then traffic signal improvements for Lincoln and Broad. And then in the contract, I know Summers and 23rd has been an issue that many people have discussed and have concerns about. So we added 23rd and Summers. There's a special special price in the contract. Once the study is done, if it warrants a traffic improvement or a traffic signal be at 23rd and Summers, we'll move forward with the traffic signal improvements at 23rd and Summers. So those costs are included in here. If the traffic study shows that we don't need a signal at 23rd and Summers, then obviously we wouldn't pay those and that would come out of the contract. But also as part of this, we're doing traffic signal improvements at Clarkson and Military. A lot of our signals around town are old, and we're finding it much harder to find replacement parts for it. And we're trying to prioritize the busier intersections are the ones that are in the worst shape, and Clarkson and Military seems to be one of the older ones. So that's going to be on this study for traffic signal improvements. They'll study it, they'll put up new lights, they'll redo the traffic flow. The 23rd and Summers intersection is a 4-way stop now. We haven't taken the traffic signals down because we're waiting for the warrant study to be done to tell us if we need the signals there. If they're there, we don't want to have taken them down. We'll reuse the old poles. But basically the story with 23rd and Summers is it's going to remain a 4-way stop until the warrant study comes back and tells us what we need to do. That equipment there it's basically you're trying to hook up an Atari 2600 to the newest computer. It doesn't work. And those eras are correct. We're talking about 1970s equipment versus 2025 equipment. So we don't have replacement parts for that. So once the warrant study comes back, we'll decide what to do with 23rd and Summers. Recommendation will be, if I'm still here as a city engineer, my recommendation will be to do whatever the traffic study says to do. At that time, if the council doesn't agree and it says we want a signal and the council wants to make it a stop, or it says it's a stop and the council wants to make it a signal, that's the council's prerogative. I don't have a problem with it either way. The recommendation will be to do whatever the traffic study says, though. I do have one comment on the contract. If you look at section 9.1, the date is actually wrong. It calls out the dates for things to be completed and references October 2024, November 2024, December 2024, and then it says January 30th, 2024. Obviously, that needs to be January 30th, 2025. I don't know if that needs to be changed now, or if it's okay to send it forward, but obviously that we're not going to meet that January 30th, 2024 date now.
Okay. Legal, can you address that?
Yeah, we don't need an amendment for that.
Okay.
Scrivener's error.
Any questions from the council on this item?
No, there were concerns about the new school and how that would impact traffic. So this study would help do the traffic study.
The study will
analysis
take in,
with that
studies,
too.
traffic studies usually take into account existing conditions and growth. I know there's a plan for a development north on Summers too, it would take into account that as well, so
Okay,
it accounts for growth and it accounts for future growth as well.
thank you.
Any other questions, council? Thank you, Troy. Anybody here to speak on this?
Fred, you're 2318 East Fifth Street. I couldn't wait for this item to come to the council's agenda. Been here speaking on this issue for some time, and now that you're modifying the agreement to include Clarkson and military, which wasn't in the original plan, I would ask you to give some serious consideration as to why you're not including the debacle that's on Luther Street today. Right now, you have a stop sign at 16th and Luther. Now you've added a stoplight at 19th and Luther. You've already added stop signs at 22nd and Luther, and there's a stoplight on 23rd and Luther. I can't imagine that a traffic flow engineer would tell you that's good traffic flow on a street that is heavily used. Why you're not studying that, if you're going to study Clarkson and military, is beyond me. It seems to me there has to be a better solution than 4 stops in less than 7 blocks. That just doesn't make sense, and I'm not an engineer, but the citizens of Fremont, I'm pretty sure, are not enamored with your decisions to put all of those stops along Luther. The other thing, with regards to the 23rd and Summers, going to 4-way stops rather than stoplights. I'm assuming that the Ward 2 council members have gotten plenty of insight on this matter. I'm not a councilman anymore, and I talk to a lot of people, and they are not happy with 4-way stops and the lack of functionality with stop signs rather than a traffic light, as that's been for a number of years. In addition to their complaints, which I'm sure you're getting with regards to the slow traffic through there with the stop sign control mechanism. I appreciate the fact that you're going to study it, but the citizens of Fremont have already studied it, and they don't like what they have out there. They wanted to know initially why that wasn't the first fix when you were fixing stoplights, why that particular stoplight wasn't fixed first. They are backed up all the time, not only because of the trains, but because people don't know how and don't use 4-way stops appropriately. And so even when the trains move, it takes 30, 40 minutes or longer to clear the 4-way stop signs for people to go through there, which didn't used to be that way when it was a stop light. The other concern that I would raise associated with that is I'm under the impression, and law enforcement and fire aren't here, but my understanding is they can't control stop signs. But I think they can control the electronics on stop lights so that they have free. We have an access chokehold on Washington Heights as it is. If they can control the stoplights so that they get green lights when they're coming, that definitely needs to be stop light, not stop signs. I'm sure your engineers will probably take that into account, but if not, you need to remind them of the difficulties in getting to Washington Heights. It's a long way around to go the other way. If emergency vehicles can get through that intersection without having to go through stop signs that are backed up for, I don't know, blocks sometimes because of the trains, you need to look seriously at what provides public safety to that area of the community, not just what might be traffic generally. So I encourage you to take a real serious look at that being a stop sign, or not a stop sign, on 23rd and Summers. And for you to really take a hard look at adding to your study areas, the strip along Luther from 16th to 23rd. And while you're at it, I would ask you to have them revisit whether or not a stoplight isn't appropriate at the intersection between Walmart and the new grade school. That's a safety issue waiting to happen. I know they told you they didn't recommend it last time. I would encourage you, now that that's no longer a state highway, make that a priority. If they won't put one there, the city council should put a stoplight there so to protect our students. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public on this item? Any additional comments from council? Councilman Vaughn?
If no further comments, I would make a motion to approve resolution 2024-237.
Councilman Jensen.
And I will second.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Warner,
Yes.
Dinkins,
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 19 is resolution 2024-238 approving the road rail subdivision replat for final plat.
Good evening, Jennifer Dan, Planning Director. This is a subdivision that, but for the requirement in the UDC that administrative subdivisions need to be within the city limits, and the addition of a couple easements would be something we would normally try to do administratively. It's simply moving a couple of lot lines between the rented property and the property that's owned by SCS. The shifting the property up on the north and then again on the south. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff on this item? Any comments from the public on this item? Seeing none, any additional comments from council? There are none, I would take a motion. Councilman Jensen.
With no further comment, I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2024-238.
Councilwoman Ganem.
I'll second.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dinkins,
Yes.
Warner,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Von Baron.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 20 is ordinance 5697 for a change of zone from R rural to SR suburban residential for property located at the extension of Heatherwood Drive between Peterson Avenue and Brentwood Drive. First reading.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, Jennifer Dan, Planning Director. These next two items are related. They are related to the Brooks Hollow Third subdivision. Initially, this is the area that was platted, and initially is what we had advertised. When we talked to the developer about the entire area, we asked the developer's engineer for the legal description that would describe the entire area. Through miscommunication, they provided us with the legal description for the area that is remaining in agriculture use right now, and not the entire area. When I called the developer about it, she was very well-humored and understanding. And is entirely fine with this. It was just crossover in miscommunication. We can waive readings for the change of zone, but the annexation does require all three readings. And if it's okay with the council, I would propose to put the second and third reading of the annexation on the consent agenda. We've talked about this multiple times, and again, it was an error. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions for staff on this? Thank you. Any comments from the public on this? Okay, I'd take a motion in regards to this change of zone. Councilwoman Ganem.
I move we introduce and hold first reading of ordinance 5697.
Councilwoman Lathrop.
Second.
Dinkins,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Warner.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
And then we can move to third and final on this. I guess I would ask the council for change of zone. We can move to third and final. Councilman Jensen.
I'll make the motion to, pardon, to waive rules and move this to third and final reading.
Before that, we need to have, we need to do the reading. Well, first reading, sorry.
An ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska, amending ordinance number 5427 as it pertains to the zoning map to rezone the property located in the southwest section 18 township 17 north range 9 east of the 6 p.m. Dodge County, Nebraska, and generally located at the extension of Heatherwood Drive between Peterson Avenue and Brentwood Drive, Dodge County, Nebraska, from R rural to SR suburban residential, providing for repeal of ordinances conflict herewith, providing for severability, and providing an effective date on first reading.
Thank you, Tyler. All right, there's been a motion to suspend the rules and move to final reading. Is there a second, Councilman Sukram?
I'll second.
Dinkins,
Yes.
Warner,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Go ahead with final reading.
An ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska, amending ordinance number 5427 as pertains to the zoning map for rezoned property located in the southwest of section 18 Township 17 North Range 9 east of the 6 PM Dodge County, Nebraska, and generally located at the extension of Heatherwood Drive between Peterson Avenue and Brentwood Drive, Dodge County, Nebraska, from R rural to SR suburban residential, providing for repeal of ordinances to conflict herewith, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Final reading.
Okay, call the roll for the final vote, please.
Jensen,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dinkins,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
ordinance is approved 8-0, Mayor.
Okay, now we'll move on to item 21 as ordinance 5698 for the annexation of property located at the extension of Heatherwood Drive between Peterson Avenue and Brentwood Drive. We had our report from staff. Is there anybody from the public here to speak on this item? There's no other comments from council. Would take a motion. Councilwoman Ganem.
I move we introduce and hold first reading of ordinance 5698.
Councilman Horner.
I'll second.
Horner,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dinkins,
Yes.
motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
First reading.
An ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska, annexing by voluntary petition properly located in the southwest section 18, township 17, north, range 9, east of the 6 PM Dodge County, Nebraska, and generally located at the extension of Heatherwood Drive between Peterson Avenue and Brentwood Drive and westward to 12th Street, extended corporate limit to include said real estate, providing for repeal of ordinances of conflict herewith, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Item 22 is the executive session to discuss cybersecurity standards and critical infrastructure matters, and we'll have the language passed out here. Would need a motion from council to go into executive session. Councilman Jensen.
I move to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing cybersecurity standards and critical infrastructure matters, and for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest.
Is there a second? Councilwoman Ganem.
I'll second.
A motion has been made and seconded to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing cybersecurity standards and critical infrastructure matters, for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest. Is there any discussion from the council? The pending motion is to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing cybersecurity standards and critical infrastructure matters, and for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest. Please call the roll.
Ganem,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Dinkins,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
A motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing cybersecurity standards and critical infrastructure matters, for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest has been approved. Discussion will be limited to cybersecurity standards and critical infrastructure matters. No official actions or votes will be taken during the executive session. And we'll now move to the Pinnacle Bank Board.
Oh.
That's why the little arts.
I'll take that.
One thing you never wanna do is you never wanna film.
I would take a motion to come out of executive session. Councilman Sucrum,
Motion to come out of executive session?
Second.
Vaughn, second.
Piano,
Yes.
Lathrop.
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Deacons,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Deacons,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Piano,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Von Baron.
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
8:20, we're adjourned. Good night, everybody.
I skipped that too.
Yes. Yes, it was, a great 3 days.
You would think.